So it's 4:30. We'll go ahead and start. We do have a form. This is the Poughkeepsie Joint Water Board, June 3rd, 2024 meeting. Without further ado, when we do do a roll call first.
Did we ever have it? I mean, I know, I still record it, so.
Okay. So let's go ahead and step to the agenda then. We have a motion to approve the 2020 June, the 20 minutes.
Removed.
Yeah.
It should be made. Yeah.
The floor is the second side. Okay, all in favor? All right, so we have public participation.
She's putting it on YouTube now. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is public participation. Do we have any members of the public who would like to participate regarding today's agenda? Yes, Lindsay.
Yes, I see that there's agenda item for the audit report. It appears that that's for years 2020 and 2021. And just hope that going forward, you can try to catch up so that the audits are done on a more timely basis. And the other thing I would like to say is how important it is to be giving Randy documents so that they can be posted for the open meetings law, so that the information is made available to the public 24 hours before the meeting for the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, any all set, plan status report, please.
The first half of the month was really good.
Yeah.
The second half, not so good. We had a major, and the quality's good. We met it right here. Mom got a little anxious about water in the system, but we did get to feed everybody that was out there. So we cut back on semi about 1 million gallons a day. So we could get a little better. But the failure seemed to be a power blip that came in and affected our pilot pumps by taking them out. And then it also hit a chlorine pump. And because our system is now looped, during it started on the May 17th and it finally ended pretty much on May 31st. So it's been half a month, 2 weeks, 2 long weeks. Because then when it did on this loop, it started hitting other things. It's like, what's it going to take out now? Then it took out some filters, then it started a chemical pump, then it went to the IPS and we had water in places. It was not good. Our staff jumped in and did what they had to do to make it work. And we got through it. So right now we have the pilot pump number 4 and the chlorine and tackle pumps still in manual. And they're supposed to get that taken care of this week. But this weekend was awesome. It was just like a whole weekend. It was great.
Randy, can you comment for everybody? This is really, as you said, a blip. This is something that's highly unusual and never happened before.
Right.
Can you talk about what you're doing to assess what happened and why it happened? It's equipment or it's
There's surge protection.
operation or what happened?
The power blip, if you don't have proper surge protection, it can take out the controls. And that's what happened on the pilot pump and then the chlorine pump. So it's going ahead and getting better surge protection.
We know what caused the surge? Central Hudson already been
Central
indicated?
Hudson, it's Central Hudson, it just happened. Because it's going on. I don't know. We're gonna speak with Central Hudson. We're also gonna get to look at electrical from some other people to see if we're missing something. We've had issues in the back. That's why we have the EPS system on the new units because of power. And we've had issues with ozone, with power fluctuations. And so, but we worked through it. I'm comfortable that we got to handle.
So we don't think that it was equipment. We think it was.
It wasn't equipment. Equipment was fine. It's had to do holes in the floor.
So
That's
thinking
why we
about
could
surge,
operate everything in manual.
surge protection would be the thing to think about most then.
Yeah,
in
and
terms of
we're putting
preventing
together a
anything.
word to make the recommendation of what we really need to do. We lost 2 chemical pumps through this. So that's the only thing that really got big. And then we had some people, so we got up there.
What's the damage on that?
The 2 pumps were $34,000. I think all the consulting work's probably gonna be another 20 to 50. So it's gonna be expensive. It's not a good year to be expensive. We're spending, having issues, but we'll figure out ways to make it work. Decent on our budget. So, we end up putting things off or doing something different. We don't want, we want to keep as close to the budget as we can, but we still haven't touched the contingency.
That'd be 5 years.
I think there's, Brian?
We
Would
need
the
to
damage,
notify, we need to notify the carrier right away.
would the damage on equipment be covered by insurance?
I mean, you know, we can submit a claim, I don't think so, because it's no more operations. You know, unless we're trying to hold something, let's. Okay. You know, but certainly ask the question. Also, I think, you know, as we're considering, the, Joint Water IMA working group, we necessarily need to ensure that we talk about, controls, especially as they relate to cyber and electrical, all the types of surges that, you know, these plants are vulnerable to. We dodged the bullet, thanks to, by the way, great work and great team spirit from your team as always. They went above and beyond. You know, it's monitoring the emails of weekends, Earl, and, you know, as usual, very responsive. I think necessarily need to make sure that we include that when we look, the working group looks at goals in general, management goals, that we include cyber, electrical, surge, all these things. So it's probably an inventory and then building a capital project list that we should create. So that we sustain the plan.
I also want to say that Tommy's not the only one who was worried about water, and I'd like to talk a little bit about communications, and I'd like to review the plan for who gets who, what, when, right? And I'm not very good with email on weekends. I'm much better with text or whatever, and where do we, who needs to be informed when? And maybe the last person needs to be informed, because I'm not going to be very helpful. But in terms of public notification, if we feel like we may have an issue, it's a good wake-up call to say we need to be, I as a board member certainly need to be clearer on who needs to know what, when, if we think that people need to start conserving. Because there is a capacity to do multiple layers of, hey, you know, this is a conservation alert for the weekend, right? Versus, you know, there are different ways to address it with the public, but if we think that we are gonna have any, you know, any short-term issue, because we've had a plant issue, I think that's worth talking about as well.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I think, you know, I happen to be on an email, for a different number that we were working on the weekend, saw Rain's email. I then, later on attended a Memorial Day service, at there. And reached out to the city administrator as well. I think both the town and city, elected officials should be notified. The administrative elected officials of them.
well, it may be that it's the town and city that think about notification more than the plan, right?
Right.
In terms of
Yeah,
that may be more of a function of us reaching out to residents, but we gotta figure out who goes what.
Well, it takes communication to evolve because everyone's got a different timeline of how long things, you know, before it's not really a problem until it's getting to be a problem, until it's a problem. But, you know, that's a stage level, you know. So, you know, it's important to have that communication, a timeline for everybody, because everyone's time is different.
Yeah, including our third party water.
Well, and it's precipitated a conversation in the town also about, you know, it's the same with the blizzard. Heads up, there could be something coming. Heads up, it could be an inch of snow. You know, okay, you know, right?
Mhm.
There's layers of communication with people to let them know what's going on. So, it's just wanted to flag that as an issue I'd like to talk about.
the reason it was handled the way it was, because I had staff here. And they could do what needed to be done to make sure we could get the water out. Sometimes it took a little longer than Tom would like, but we,
Tom didn't have as much time as you did.
but I mean, it was, there was some rough periods of it, but I was comfortable we could get it back, and we did. When he needed it by midnight, I got it by 4 o'clock. You know, so we got it done. But again, it was really strange because things happen here and then they happen over there, and then they were back over here. It was crazy. So crazy. But, right now, the plant's working just perfectly, yeah. So,
I want to echo Brian's appreciation to everybody who came in and let that to happen. But I know a lot of extra hours, have a lot of not very good times, so.
Yeah,
Not
with
when
the
you'd rather be doing
holiday
something
weekend,
else.
right, yeah. And, but it was interesting because the guys did really well and the girls, everybody did good. Everybody, we had to have an operator sit at the desk to watch this screen to make sure nothing came on or went off. Full time, one guy just sitting there. We haven't had that ever. You know, but it had to be done at the time, so, and then maintenance had to have people here 24/7 because if we wanted to change a pump, we couldn't do it unless maintenance was here. So that's the kind of stuff we're going through. But not anyone complained, they worked as a team, they just, it was great. It was really good. And then you'll be like, wait, I learned so much, because a lot of things hadn't been done in a long time, you just so rely on, you know, your controls. But we had enough, history here that we could get it done.
Is there any more-
Sorry, that's another issue, question, right? It's like, if manual's gonna, if there's a chance of manual being needed, right, then how is everybody ready for that? Worried about losing any institutional memory that might be. Anyway, sorry, Brian.
No problem. Is there any other discussion on the plant status report? All right, hearing that,
We'll probably be reporting on that next month or talking more about it next month, but we get some.
Okay, next month I will promise to have a report that actually completes it.
Oh, well, I know you're
Because I don't
still
have
in the
any-
middle of it now,
I've
right?
still got a few days to go on this thing, because like I said, there's still some things out. I can't get the final report.
Understood.
And our control guy, which is from Pennsylvania, he spent the time here with us a long time. And, he went on, he didn't come in today. He needed a break. You know, and then he'd be sitting working on the thing and then I can't think anymore because I'm so tired. That kind of thing happened, but we got through it, so that's a good thing. So,
yeah, so I think the takeaway from this discussion is that, whether it's a subgroup, board, or maybe we make it a board discussion topic, in the near future, or perhaps the IMA working group takes this on, we need to document, our, you know, plant casualty, response. You know, what does that procedure look like? And then I think the other takeaway is that, to make sure that we have a full inventory for all goals as part of our IT practices. That's something I definitely want to take up and work. So whatever group we have, take a look at this and collectively deliver. Take those two takeaways. All right, hearing no further discussion on the plant status report, we'll move on to item number 4, the operating budget status.
right now, we're 42% into the year and we're spent 32% of our budget. So we're doing all right. Certain lines show higher than we desired, but we can move things around. And we're all right at the moment. We're gonna do everything we can to make sure we keep it in the budget.
Great. Okay, so let's move on to the filter and TSST replacement projects. There's a little bit of overlap with the capital plan item. We'll hold off on that. I'll report out for the city's passed both bond resolutions for the filter and the sludge tank projects. It is our intent to fund the filter project in discussions with plant administrator, plant superintendent. That is definitely the highest priority. And we've again been discussing with the superintendent that the sludge tank, though it is in need of repair, that the city is in the process of putting together its capital plan now. So we just turned that over actually a month early to the council. By our statutory filing date or approval date is August 31st. We'll have a better idea about when we can fund the sludge tank. I think 25 or 26 for that. For the filters, we need to work with Aaron Moore and Ryan Vaughn so that we can ensure that we all go to EFC at the right time so we get these filters.
Town is ready to do that on Wednesday night. So we want to for the town board to approve that contingent on getting the grant.
So Randy, I think maybe someone from the town, I don't know if that's Tom or who, maybe you and I and Aaron and someone from the town on the money side. Don't care who that is from the town. But if you're using your top for that way now, what you used to do, to get involved in discussion.
Yep.
So that we're all hitting DFC at the same time to the right documentation.
Right, and legal, our bond counsel. What's the total figure for the filters? Yeah,
I think it was around 5 million.
It was like 5.6.
Yeah,
and we would hope to get 40%.
that's what the range is that they give you. That's like higher end for 40%.
But they do 40%, we would match 60%.
Right,
And then the city and town would support that.
But it could be as low as 20. It's the typical split without grants, or that's the typical grant, split 80-20. And if you have this additional lead grant, it could offset. Wow.
Are we applying to be for, is it for loan as well as?
We itself is a grant,
yeah, we as a grant, EFC's the loan,
yeah,
We're applying for both.
right,
that's my understanding, yes.
yes. What I've asked Aaron to do is give us an updated schedule, because everybody knows we're looking for the June date now, or in June. I'll get that tomorrow.
And then just to be clear, it's the town's bond council, the city's bond council that push things through with EFC.
Right.
Okay, any questions about item number 5? Hearing none, let's move on to the RFPs for the water board engineer, lawyer, and for study.
The RFPs went out, for the engineering services for the city of, to the water board is due on the 5th of June. For the legal, it's due on the 12th of June. And for the flow study, it's due on the 12th of June. Had lots of calls, people that we never talked to before are interested because it's been posted on CityNet, which is a good thing.
Yep.
So looking to get that going. The one concern I had is we need to find out how we're gonna evaluate it. As far as in the past, engineering services, I would work with my team and we make a recommendation and then go that direction. Given what we did here, I was talking to Brian and maybe we'd have like myself and 2 people, one from the town, one from the city. That would be fine.
A committee of this board would evaluate the RFPs.
Yes, and then bring it back to the regular, to the full board,
That seems fine,
and then we, just of course.
to make a recommendation at the.
Yeah, there's a
July.
scoring mechanism, and remember, the RFPs are different than bids,
Mhm.
right? RFPs, RFPs is low bid, done, all day long, right? That's the state federal law. But for professional services, we have some latitude. So your scoring rubric may indicate hiring company A, but there may be extenuating circumstances during our discovery phase that should make you choose company B,
So I'd be happy to serve on the town.
right? Right.
I'll confer with Barbara. She sent her regrets, she's not there. She's staying.
And Brian will be using.
No, yeah. I think that's appropriate because the city serves as the administrative entity for the joint water board. So by definition, the commissioner of finance is in charge of executing the procurements. So I'll make sure there's no conflict.
Okay, so when I get them in, I'll get them out to you. What I'll do is I'll review it with my staff as a group here. And then I will be the representative, I will be the group, review, look at comments on what we think, why we think what we think.
And Randy, if you think you need an additional staff members, particularly for the water board engineer, then in that case, if there was a tie, I don't see one. But
Well,
or
I
the full
I
board.
think
could
we'll be fine with the 3 of us.
Okay, all right.
I'm feel comfortable.
Okay, great. So why don't we make a motion to form that committee?
Wait, is that for all 3 sets of RFPs? Or that's for
For all 3 of them.
all 3? Okay. I mean, one of the different groups, they should put the different. One of those.
Yeah, if you want to add someone else on the legal other than me, I'm happy. So I don't know anything about legal. That's not a problem.
Yeah,
All right, anyways.
I will want to consult with other folks on the,
So, yeah, on the flow study, we'll come back with a city rep to do that. I'm thinking our city engineer, with grade, not a board member, but probably the most qualified at the city to evaluate those, ERPs. and other proposals.
So
Legal, I'll put my name down for legal for the city.
So you're using, okay, so for the engineering board engineer, it's gonna be Rebecca Chris. Legal,
I'll take that one.
I'll just follow you for that one.
you understand with that?
Okay, in the flow study, I'll have a city rep TBD. And it's either gonna be the city engineer or the commissioner of public works.
If we don't need to vote on this today, I will talk with Barb about.
Why don't,
I can do nothing. We,
why don't we pass a vote just to form 3 committees, with names, next month, but,
The town and the
Well-
city will make their recommendation.
Says the proposals are in the 12th, and I'd really like to get it moving forward.
Yep.
So I don't wanna try to, I'd rather not have to wait till the next board meeting to get it to start the review process.
Do we need
June-
to vote on?
June 12th, all 3 of them?
the 6th.
One is on the 6th, which is the legal, and the other two are the board engineer and the flow study of the 12th.
Wait, I thought you said engineering was the 5th and legal and flow study was 12th.
Yeah, I think he misspoke, because
Okay,
the
you're
way
right.
I understand it is engineering and flow study on the 12th. Legal on the.
Yes.
6th or 5th.
Then I would suggest that we have one committee that looks at the engineering and flow study on when they plan on the 12th, and another that looks at legal when that comes in on the day after tomorrow, whenever that is. Then that-
Legal's on the 12th.
Joint water treatment facility engineering services flow study, June 12th. This is the proposal for legal service, June 12th. And the water board engineer, June 5th.
That's what you said the first time. Yep.
Go back to reading them, I can get it right.
Okay, so we're good with, 2 names in the city and town for the water board, engineer. We're good from the city and town for lawyer, and that would be Rebecca and myself. And the flow study is, TBD, 2 names, but you know what? I'm gonna offer you a secretary. for that. You're good.
Let's just make the decision right now.
Yeah.
I got it.
Do you wanna do that? Great.
So Tom from the town and Chris from the city. And we are now covered for all 3 RFPs, and hopefully we can get those back for our next month. So I gotta get a motion to form these procurement review committees for RFPs for water board engineer with Rebecca and Chris Jen, Rebecca Evers and Chris Jen. And for the lawyer would be Brian Martinez and Rebecca Edwards. For the flow study RFP will be Chris Chen and Tom.
So moved.
And me and
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. You guys are fantastic. Okay, we have another brief agenda item. On the village of Wappingers Falls, I don't know if gentleman's name is here.
Hey, good. My name's Kevin Huber, the mayor of the Village of Wapping Schools.
Hey, Kevin?
So we're looking to buy water off. So our planting was not up to 80 gallons a day. Roughly a little over 500. Okay, so we're looking for purpose for that. Again. Start out.
And you are replacing the water that you are make yourselves, or you're gonna have some?
We're gonna use your water instead of ours. For the water price.
So you need 1 million?
Well, we could do up, water plant could do up to.
What's your daily usage?
Daily use is a little over 500,000.
So do you know what your requirement would be? Daily basis, roughly?
Not really, bro. That makes it fast. It's a lot of fine. 600,000. It's right. Respect our things. Talent. Turn the valve on, so.
Do you have any statistical data you can give us on your usage?
You can email.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. And
Go to the board of health yet? About.
Yes.
Solely on us?
Yep, so we talked to the, Dan Keeler came to one of our board meetings. So, right, let's start. I don't know, meeting with the board, like, we have another project coming. And go room, you know, my opinion.
so I'm gonna look to our lawyer here, and you know, how have we, is there a format or a process in writing that shows how we kind of step through this process?
No, we don't really have a format. There is an existing agreement, a backup water supply agreement that was negotiated with the village several years ago. Back in 2022. That agreement was, I believe, for 500,000 gallons. It was, you know, basically on a temporary basis, so it wasn't day to day. We had negotiated a rate with respect to that. Maybe about how much have they taken on that contract?
I haven't really seen that.
So,
No,
so the intent of the agreement when it was originally negotiated was to provide a backup water supply so the village could do work on the system. There was a discussion about replacing, or painting some of the storage tanks and
Storage tanks and maintenance. Water softeners.
so that was really the intent of the agreement was to provide them with source of water on a temporary basis with their original, with their regular facilities offline. The rate was, there was an initial rate of $2 and it's $2.763 per 1,000 gallons. Which was broken down between source of supply and transportation. That number came from basically advancing the prior contract with the village of Wappingers Store, which was 2005. 6.
I think they left us in like 2002 or 2003.
It was more, well, yeah.
Yeah, so,
We're worried about forming time.
Yeah, it was because of course.
That was 8 or 9, wasn't it?
yeah,
so why don't we do this? This deserves a more in-depth. I think we need to put together a set of requirements, start to determine the contractual arrangements, take or pay, what it sounds like to me. And so we can get some statistical data, and perhaps we can get Randy to make some recommendation regarding your requirement. Build it out so we can get a good ask and then we can get some numbers on it. That sounds all right.
You,
Yeah, all right.
contact the Randy.
So
Yep. that'd be good.
if I can ask a couple questions, right? So we have customers in the city and the town of Poughkeepsie paying retail water. And then we have the take or pay contracts. So we're contemplating this as a take or pay contract. With the idea that,
I don't know, that's why I said, I think we should work on the requirement, right, what's the ask? I'm not gonna fall.
Right.
We have all new board members, I think, with a couple of exceptions, so.
I'm super in favor of providing other folks with water. I'm also super in favor of retail customers in the town and the city of Poughkeepsie not subsidizing water that's going elsewhere, but that we are all, you know, all of us who are paying the same rate. And I recognize that sometimes we're sending water into another system and some of the maintenance on that system and so forth is being delivered elsewhere. But I just want to put that in the mix, right? As
Yeah,
we think
absolutely.
about what, you know, kind of even this system out so that.
And another great topic for the board and the IMA working group. Because third-party water sales, I think as documented, are a bit inconsistent.
What we did originally is we set our rate based upon how much it costs to make the water. And so we said, and then we also, how much it was to pump it to the source. And then we inflated it every year by the CPI. And so, that know that when the wholesale water, there's not, you're not having billing, I do the billing, so it's not like 100,000, 3,200 bills or something like that. So you don't have to do that. A lot of them, infrastructure is being handled usually, especially the county, it just goes out. So the money's in the town, the extra money for the infrastructure.
Yeah,
So
so, and
that's why it's so reasonably priced. I mean, it's lower than the city town, but because it is really a good part, there's still a good profit in there because right now we're looking at, we produced water last year for $1.14 1,000 gallons. By taking their rate and moving it up to the current, I calculated it was $3.18. So we will talk about it.
I agree with Rebecca, that we need to be able to prove the business case. That's what I want to challenge my team to do, and hopefully bring this discussion forward, and I'm a working group and to the board, is we need to consider the cost of capital improvements, right? Because it's not, that'll, making the water is a cost of operations. Ensuring that we have a plant that's resilient on the face of climate change, cyber threats, all these other things cost money. So all of our, in the future, I think we really ought to consider, those, not just cost of operations, but we need to consider infrastructure costs.
The distribution costs, and then we're looking at bonding. The town is looking at bonding. I think my math is right. Our half is gonna be 2.24 million for filters, and we're trying, we need, there's just a lot of that needs to get paid for.
Well, so, but the math is a little weird, because going back to the 1994 agreement, this is again, one of the issues I brought up in 2022, this whole idea behind a working group, we need to look at our infrastructure costs, because right now, because the city reserved rights to some larger percentage of water capacity, the city pays 55 cents on the dollar, the town pays about 45 cents on the dollar for all new capital projects. So right now, even though now the town is using, I think, twice the amount of water that the city is using, the city is now subsidizing the infrastructure by 10 cents on the dollar. So another topic for today, but something else for really wrap our brains around, because and the IMA has not been updated since 1990.
So to the capital expense issues, most of the contracts that were negotiated previously had a provision in them that indicated that pro rata share of the capital costs could be added to the contract. However, some of the smaller capital costs and projects that were added.
Well, and my issue with that is that 2 years ago, I asked the board, then as the commissioner of finance and not a member of the board, but as the entity administrator, asked the board into capital planning, because the board had not done capital planning prior to that. So I'm going to say that even though there was intent in those contracts, there were no collections made, no sharing of costs. So because we weren't watching the school. So that's something we need to correct. Not just in theory, but in practice.
So, to the board's question, you could handle it two ways. You could either build in the capital cost to the rate that's charged. And that way you don't put in that later pro rata provision, which makes it easier to collect the capital costs up front. Or, you can do what,
Yes,
what was done in the prior contracts, but like I said, one of the problems, as you noted, is that Jim Colby,
Yeah, Jim, I think your comments are well placed and well taken. Because heretofore, Randy has a great capital list. 5 big valves, 5 more big valves, and It's all there, but it's the cost of operations. So we've been paying for it out of HIDE rather than having a capital plan. So now, here we are with, I think a total of about $8 million between just two projects. And boom, there's no 5-year capital plan or even a 3-year capital plan. Because now, we're ready to put both of those projects in the capital plan. This is all worth, this is about changing our practices, changing our behaviors, and then also sharing costs with our third-party customers.
I mean, the other thing that makes it a little bit more complicated is that the bonding and the servicing, the debt service is at the city and the town level rather than at the board level. So, you
Splitting it amongst some of our other take-or-pay customers, then we might not have bond.
so, well, I don't, I mean, but like I said, just from an accounting point of view, some of those debt service costs may not be reflected in the joint water board budget, as they're being funded at the city.
Would those collected costs go to 2 separate accounts?
Yeah, there's a way for it.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
be
right.
accounted. Sure, I mean,
That's semantics, but
that's bookkeeping.
right.
What we did with the county contract is because we're taking 20% roughly of our capacity. So we told them, and it was, the upgrade was set because of a standard, treatment standard. So only do they have to pay extra for the treatment standard. So we did the upgrade for the ozone. That percentage was added to their bill. So you can see in the invoice I give them, I charge them for water, and then I charge them a capital cost, which I work with Bill Brady to come up with this over $6,000 a month. That goes on top of that. As far as other contracts, there's no inclusion in that because they're not a big high percentage of our overall cost. But IBM is, it was, now it's not seven.
What I'm saying is you can't see our capital, can't see what our capital charge is. It's all one spot. So like we collected this for capital, but it's all,
No, you're right, you're right.
Well, you'll see on,
Like such.
on every invoice, you'll see it's a charge for capital. And so it can be put in any presentation you want, but it's definitely called that. It's
Yeah,
capital.
but I'm sorry, I don't
We
mean
can-
to stand there.
Are you're presuming that you're purchasing water from this
Yes.
entity, are you planning to shut your water supply down?
When do you want to go online?
I don't know, maybe.
For year end,
Probably
before winter?
Before winter, that's.
Okay. Fall.
Five
So we got a perfect, so we're looking into a green center. To all for about finance. We're gonna get out another loan, $5 million loan. It's more debt. Have to take.
Well, I guess, one
In order
question-
to not have to get it done.
Correct.
I guess one question, Kevin, I know, historically, there's been a lot of political issues in the village. Is there a vote that's required to switch over for this contract or not? Is it just a straight?
I think it's just straight.
Yeah.
Water board knows what bill.
Okay. That's what I thought. but-
Well, and then also, there's another thing is that, the town and city councils are gonna have to agree to this, and it's another issue that I have, because that's the town. and city councils have right, these councils have not previously agreed to third-party water services, it's not part of our practice. They probably want to. Giving up capacity from the two primary owners. So it's another kind of ripple. You'd be a great game pick, Kevin.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll try to get an answer to you.
Okay, I'll get the information to Randy.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're in a side meeting tonight. With that, let's go ahead and do, the audit reports. We have Monadeo Group up first, and Alan, thank you for your patience. A little bit more than 25 minutes to get to your, agenda. But hopefully this, helps you, gain even more perspective about this. Please, without further ado.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Alan Walther. I'm a partner with the Bonadeo Group. We have completed the audits for the joint water project for the years ending December 31st, 2020, and December 31st, 2021. I see on the table in front of everyone, I believe, there's printouts of the PowerPoint presentation that I created. So instead of sharing my screen, I'm just going to scroll through it and go through that. The audit reports were issued in their final form a couple of weeks ago. I prepared the PowerPoint just to simplify, condense. And as I said, we've completed 2020 and 2021. We are in the process of working on 22 and then into 23. So I know there was a comment regarding getting caught up, and the anticipation is that by the end of 2024, the water project audits will be caught up currently. So the first slide of our of my PowerPoint presentation, the services. So what do we do for the Poughkeepsie Joint Water Project? Well, we audit your financial statements, and we completed the audits, as I said, for the years ended December 31st, 2020 and 2021. In conjunction with that, because
You want to show your presentation on our screen because you're not sharing right now.
okay, I can. Yeah, you guys have it in paper, but I can share.
Actually,
I
Alan, I
think.
think that would be good for the folks who might be viewing remotely.
There we go. Okay. Okay. You guys see that now, right? It says I'm screen
Yes, we do.
sharing. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So we issue a report on internal controls and compliance in accordance with government auditing standards, and we also issue a required communications letter. So the overall results of our audit is we issued unmodified opinions on both years of your financial statements, that your financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with GAAP, GAAP being generally accepted accounting principles, and that is the highest level of assurance that we can give on your financial statements. With regard to internal controls, we did have some comments with internal controls and compliance issues, which we'll talk about. And, we just wanted to give a thank you to Brian and Karen and Paul and the rest of the team at the city that assist us with the audit. And audit is a collaborative effort, and we can't audit what is not provided to us. So a big thank you to everyone there. With regard to required communications, there were no significant new accounting standards adopted during the years. There are some significant estimates that affect your financial statements. You think of financial statements as numbers. You think of numbers as exact. That's not entirely true. There's some significant estimates. Depreciation on the capital assets. So that's based upon estimated lives, useful lives of the equipment that the water plant utilizes. Other post-employment benefits is a very significant estimate. That is actually calculated by an actuary. And what that represents is the joint water project's estimated liability to its employees and its retirees for post-employment benefits other than retirement benefits. So it's health insurance costs for the future. And then finally, there's also a liability for a pension plan, which flows through from the water project's participation in the New York State's ERS plan. The audit was delayed, as it was discussed, right? It's June 3rd, 2024. We're talking about 2020 and 2021. We need to get caught up on audits. And I think there's a plan there that the AFR, as Brian mentioned, is complete for 23. The information, we are underway with our 22 audit. And as I said previously, the plan is to get caught up by the end of the year. And then finally, with regard to required communications, there were no disagreements with management. If we had any disagreements with regard to access to accounting records, with regard to application of accounting standards, et cetera, we need to report them here. So the financial statements, again, we're not going to go through the reports individually, but the financial statements that the water project prepares, the statement in that position, which what that represents the snapshot of your financial position as of December 31st, Then there's a statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for the year. That's the operating results for each year. And then finally, there's a statement of cash flows that shows the sources and uses of cash during the year. So the financial highlights, and what I did here was I just summarized the information from the audit reports are issued, a single year basis. So I just summarized the information from each of the audit reports. The current assets are predominantly receivables. Non-current assets are predominantly the capital assets that the water plant uses. Deferred outflows are pass-throughs from OPEB, other post-employment benefits, and the pension plans. Current liabilities are your accounts payable and your accrued liabilities. Non-current liabilities are primarily your pension liability and your other post-employment benefits liability. And then deferred inflows are pass-throughs, again, from your participation in the ERS plan and in the other post-employment benefits plan. So the accounting formula here is your current assets, deferred outflows, or the debit side of the equation here. Liabilities and inflows are the credit side. And then, the debits minus the credits get you to your net position. Your net position at the end of the year of 2021 was approximately $26.2 million.
Hey, Alan, before you leave, could you maybe comment on the fairly large delta in non-current liabilities?
Yes, I believe the primary driver there is the change in the ERS plan, the pass through. The each year, as the New York State pension plan completes its own audit, it provides a letter to the Joint Water Project, and then we reconcile back to that. And I believe that the $2.5 million delta there is primarily just the difference in the valuation of the plan and the pass-through liability there.
So what we're talking about, folks, is the value that is owed to the pension fund by the joint water entity, given the cost of pensions. So the really smart mathematicians, the actuarials, rebalance what they think the value of those liabilities are to make sure to make pensions, pay the pensions in the future. So you can see that the valuation went down after the pandemic, kind of a weird, expected to go up, not down. We've seen pension costs, all benefits in general, just skyrocket from about 2019 to 2020, and it's starting to ease a little bit in 2021. So, but I thought that was kind of interesting. And then, could you also comment on the deferred inflows, just so the board understands a little bit about those?
So the deferred inflows is very similar, Brian, to the non-current liabilities. Those are, I guess, the best description are smoothing entries that the ERS plan and the other post-employment benefits plan, where they just kind of park things that will be recognized in future years. And again, the $1.7 million, I believe the large increase there is actually on the other post-employment benefits plan.
Could you say that again? Large increase, we lost you.
To the other the OPEB, the other post-employment benefits.
Other pay and employee benefits.
Any other questions on the statement in that position?
No, and I think just a comment for the board is that you see that, those non-current liabilities, those projected pension payments in the future went down, but the deferred inflows are for other employee benefits. So it could be workers' compensation, it could be cost of medical and health. All those things went up, and we saw that across the board in the last couple of years. So it could be in 21, 22.
Okay. The next slide is the, again, summarized revenue, expense, and change in net position for the 2 years. The operating losses are relatively similar. A $653,000 loss in 21, $861,000 loss in 2020. Added to that is non-operating income. That small number is interest income that you earned. Capital contribution is charged for the plant. Mathematical formula coming up with your change in net position. Net position declined 701,000 in 2020 and in 2021 about 328,000. Added to the net position at the beginning of the year brings you up to the 26,218, which we just spoke about. It is important to remember that, of that, those the declines in net position, non-cash expenditures, depreciation is included in there, and then those pension liabilities, the changes there, and the other post-employment benefit liabilities as well, all get flowed through the statement of revenue and expenses and changes in that position. Any questions on that? Okay, and then the last statement that we have is the statement of cash flows. We show cash as zero each year. Is consistently the way that we've done it. Is we show it as we reconcile the cash back to the due to from the city of Poughkeepsie. So operating cash wise, the joint water project has shown positive operating cash, 87,000 in 2020, 226,000 in 2021. And then, most of that money flows right back out as capital related cash flow for, to maintain the equipment. You had small amount of investing cash flow of $326, $447. Each year again, it just reconciles out that the cash, the net cash is zero. But you see the real operating change in cash in the due to from the city of Poughkeepsie. And then as I said, our internal control findings, I had said previously, with regards to the government audit reporting, we just had a comment about the audit timeliness, which, I know, everyone in the room there is aware of. The audits are late, it's 2024. We're talking about the 2021 audit. Significant work has been done. As I said, we are in the process as we speak of doing the 2022 audit. And the expectation is to get caught up by the end of the year.
So when Ellen talks about getting caught up, usually your audits follow the year after you close your books. So if we can get 22 and 23 done during the next few months, which is what our plan is, we will be caught up for the first time in, I don't know when, 10 years, I don't know. So it's taken a lot of work to get to this point. And again, another great IMA working group issue. It's my position, the city has been unfairly under-resourced since the decision in 2008 to split an 8% back office operation, 4% for the city, 4% for the town. It's interesting because the meeting minutes from that meeting, water board many years ago, the recommendation was 12%. And we found that those minutes just by brief joint water board in 2022, because in my experience, 12 to 20% is about the cost of your back office operation. You've got someone operating at 12%, they're in compliance, providing timely reporting, keep them. Well, the city's been getting 4% from the town, 4% from the city has tested. So, the claim that I made is that the city has been underfunded for resources to maintain compliance and balance. However, having said all of that, what we did, and this is a good segue over to Jennifer George, to report on the AFR. Came back to the Joint Water Board, said, okay, let's do what's most important, as the state does not require these audits. This is a local audit. It goes to the board. However, the state requires an annual financial report. It used to be called an annual update document, the AUD. It's now called the AFR. It's called the AFR. We endeavored to, because those AFRs or AUDs, very late when I took over, not a pleasant thing to deal with state, you know, and not have a plan for timeliness. So our goal was to become timely with the AFR, the annual state report, if they matter. And I flipped the script. So this is our third year in a row, I think, one more time for the annual state report. And we then said, okay, let's see if we can get 1.5 audits done every year. That's pretty much what we're doing with our partners at RBT and also with Bonadeo as well. So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be all good to go regarding timeliness. And I provided all the board members copies of the actual audits for your reading pleasure. I would call your attention in those audits and the public to very back of these reports. There is a little scorecard there, and on page 29 and 28. And if that's where you want to jump to, right? You're not looking at the numbers. You want to say, okay, are the practices okay? And so I want to call your attention there because there was a material weakness identified. Our auditor and I agree, yeah, not timely. And so timeliness, and Alan, if you will agree with me or not, but the material weakness was about timeliness. Right, we couldn't produce
Correct.
documentation needed to get this done on time. So we're hoping in the future that you'll see this unmodified. Tell us about the unmodified. What does that word mean to you?
Unmodified is the highest level of assurance that we can give, Brian. So what that means is that we, you know, our opinion is that the financial statements fairly state the financial position of the joint water project.
Great. And so the material weakness is timeliness. There are no significant deficiencies and no non-compliance to report as well. So those are good things just for looking for in these audits, right? Our practice is sound. So I would invite you to take a look at both of these reports at your leisure. So are there any other questions for Alan before he disappears on us? Okay.
Thank you.
I haven't heard anything. Alan, thank you so much. And we're going to bring you back for another performance here, hopefully before the holidays. And we'll be able to all rejoice that all of our compliance and reporting is up to speed on time.
Excellent.
And
Okay.
I know you've done a lot of work with us, with the group, also with RBT, so that our practices have effectively changed. What used to be hard is not as hard. So I'm very hopeful that in the future, this will be more of a routine thing. We can take this on later.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good night. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
It's not really for the auditor, but we are holding a fund balance. We're not generating much income on investments at all. It appeared in those audits. Is that an issue for the board to discuss?
Absolutely. I don't know, is this town participating in a high yield savings, like that class?
We're in that class.
Okay, so we're in that class too. So, you know, I would like permission from the board to investigate participation in night class. I don't know if we can do it legally as this entity, but I would like permission to investigate that. Why? Well, high yield savings accounts right now are at 5.25-ish. Yeah, we expect them to come down maybe a point and a half. The bottom line is that for many years, most of the savings accounts you get in your bank or 0.25%. And even, before the run-up in inflationary, this bond cycle that we're in, 0.25% is still a lot less than 2%, 2.25%, 2.5%, which is where NICLAS and ILAP were even, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So we're holding an average of, I think a couple $1 million, $1 million to $2 million. So, that, just doing the math, it's 50 grand roughly per $1 million per year. So, and we need that kind of money for our cash flow. So, the city, as the administrator could, if it's legal, set up one of these accounts, and then what we do is we transfer the money. It's usually like one day, transfer the money out of the accounts and you pay your bills. And you keep putting money in. There's a couple different things that we can do.
It's liquid. I don't know whether we need an investment policy, and I don't know whether the city and town would need to sign off on it, but we should certainly be investing more aggressively. So it may not more aggressively since of jump outs, but I mean, we ought to be putting money into the places where we're gonna get a yield on.
Yeah, by definition, like NILAP, what's the name, liquid asset fund.
Yep.
So it's, you want to put it in your bank account, a little savings, and it gets 0.25%. You want to put it in these are, let me back up, these are cooperatives that are allowed by New York General Municipal Law that, give huge amount of purchasing power to go into the money markets. And so by definition, the only risk is that, you're not gonna make as much interest. Dollar for dollar, they're insured, so.
I mean, I'm assuming that joint water tanks are. I can imagine why they didn't give up any of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I believe the Muni keeps their fund. So I would think let's try Muni could. Would could. But that's a joint entity as well. Similar, we don't really have bonding authority. So I think it stands alone.
So could I get a motion to, ask the city to investigate participation in, I think they're called, what's the technical term used? Municipal cooperation agreement. Is what they're under general municipal law. And then I'll bring that to the board. I'll probably investigate NILAP and NICLAS. Those are the two leading providers in New York State. And again, these are allowed under state law. Providing you additional information, but if you want to look on your own, look for municipal cooperation agreements. And I'll probably do it. So. Need a motion. The second. All in favor? Great, then I'll take that for action. What's the 8% equals here? Cost.
8% of what?
Oh, the operating cost.
Yeah, for what the administrative.
Randy, where are we at? 6 million for your budget, 6 and change?
Yeah, just about,
Yeah, it's about 480,000. Split 2 ways. About 248, something like that. So that covers, all the accounting, bill paying, all the benefits, workman's comp, timekeeping, payroll, health insurance, all the insurance, employee paying benefits and for it. And then, auditing, so contracts, contract management, all those things. And I'll be bringing that back to the IMA working group. Because that we started the discussion in 22. Gave a report that showed the cost breakdown for all of these things based on actual costs.
No, I just, I put a number to that percentage rate.
No, I think it's a great question. It's a great question. I think it's important for all of us to understand business aspects as well as the technical aspects. Okay. Jennifer George from RVT is going to talk to us about the annual financial report.
Okay.
I'm gonna excuse myself. It's my daughter's last elementary school concert. So I apologize, but
Can't miss that.
I gotta go. Have a good night, everyone.
Focus on it.
I get it. There's only a limit. There's a limit to how much accounting information. So before I go into the AFR, I just want to circle back to the question that you had, Rebecca, about the fund balance. So what Alan was reporting on is actually not the way that Joint Water does their books on a regular, everyday basis. His report is on a GAAP basis, generally accepted accounting principle, which, as you'll notice, showed that the Joint Water had a loss for each year, which you might have said, well, how could there be a loss? Because we share all of the costs and everything is supposed to be covered. Well, that's because the IMA is set up so that it's current, actual, real costs that are split. So what's included in the financial statements is depreciation, which he mentioned, which is a non-cash item, right? So you buy a car now, it's not worth as much 2 years from now because it's depreciating. But that is not a physical cost. You've already split the cost of buying the car, so you're not going to record the depreciation. Also, all of the pension and the other post-employment benefits that he was talking about, those are all actuarial soft numbers, right? They're estimates. And so pension, you get an invoice every year from the retirement system. That's easy. That's split between the entities. However, then the actuaries get involved and they say, okay, well, if we had to fully fund the retirement system, how much more would that be? And they give you an additional liability. That is not part, that is considered in the expenses on the financial statements, but that's not part of the costs that are split between the city and the town, because that's not actual cash. Nobody's coming to you and saying, write me a check. Just like the other post-employment benefits. Okay, so over the next 50 years, this is how much we're projecting, the actuary is projecting. I need to start moving my hands, the camera's going crazy.
No, it does follow people around and I can't hear you well.
So I'm going to, put my hands down.
I was sitting where Randy was sitting and found that it kept zooming in on me very alarming.
So the health insurance, the premiums that are paid, that's an actual cost that is split. But when the actuary is projecting out what's the actual projected value of the benefits that have been promised to people over the rest of their lives, that's what I call a soft number. And the number at 12/31/21 was $2.3 million. That liability, nobody's going to come to you and say, write me a check right now for $2.3 million. But that cost is included in the expenses on the financial statements, which is how you're getting to a loss each year. So with that being said.
And that's an important point because it's not cash, it's not real, real money, it's an estimate. What I find really interesting is when the comptroller, state comptroller comes back and they realize that the pension funds have earned more than they estimated. Guess what? Those estimates are based on the liabilities that are in our statements. So they get rosy, for example, pension fund investments have done superb historically, particularly the last few years, because no one anticipated a liquid asset securities market that would be paying more than 5%. It's just normal. So anyway, so it's, they give you the bad news up front, then they come back at the end of the year and soften the blow, so to speak. But this is all the actuarial world. We don't live in that world. So, but I think it's important for you to understand that the reporting is required. It doesn't mean the sky's falling.
And the $26.2 million of net position that was reported on the financial statements, that is not fund balance. That's not cash. It's not cash at all. That is $29 million of capital assets. That's really where the net position is coming from. So if you look at the net position that is not tied up in capital assets, it's negative $2.8 million. So although there is cash that it could be invested, it's not the $26 million net position that he was showing up there. Okay, so moving on, the annual financial report you have in front of you. This is New York State reporting, which is again, how the accounting is done on a day-to-day basis. Does not include all of the OPEB and pension and depreciation and all those other things. And this, as Brian said, was filed timely by April 30th, which was the extended due date. So if we go to what's called page 2, this is the general fund. And the new AFR format now shows 3 years of activity. So if you were interested, you could actually go back and take this 21 column and compare it to the 21 financial statements you just got. The numbers are not going to be the same because this shows cash. In the audit, they take the cash and they net it against the amount due to the city. So there's some netting that is going on here. But as of 12/31/23, we were showing that joint water had about $900,000 of cash. You can also see that the due from other governments increased from the prior year, and that's really a timing issue because I believe in the fourth quarter contributions from the city and town were not actually made until January of 24, so that's why the receivable is higher.
Right.
Right, so we're showing here total assets of $3.8 million. And then on the next page, there were payables and accrued liabilities of $630,000. Now we offset, we have due to other governments, and this is the amount that is owed to the city and town of $3.2 million. And when you net all of that together, the actual fund balance is 0, which is how it's supposed to be. Everything is split, basically. So joint water itself does not have a fund balance.
So before we move on here, again, another great topic for the working group, ultimately be taken up by the board.
You got a list for the work. Yeah. No, but getting referred to work, hasn't done anything in 6 months,
So
so.
I've been asking,
Didn't I tell you were chairing the
You would have been found something in 6 months, I can tell you that.
so
Not quite got.
that's why, I've been kind of feeling like a, voice in the wilderness since 2022 saying, guys, we got a 1994 IMA, needs to get updated.
Yep.
And so, part of this is that the payments that the city and town make, as we saw in our reconciliation, are really out of whack. Because at the end of the year, the town pays the city almost $1 million every year. Because the city's paying too much in for its share based on water usage. We need to look at those calculations and then also look at the reconciliation, how that's done. Because effectively, remember $1 million we're gonna put in an ILAP? We're losing use of the $1 million during the course of the year. We get a check back from the town, but also losing the interest, $50,000. So. Okay, let's go.
All right, page 5 is the result of operations, so the revenues and the expenses. So water services to other governments, $68,000. That's been steadily climbing a little bit each year. And then the $5.8 million, that is water sales, and it's basically also the charges from the city and the town to cover all of the costs. And a little bit of interest.
You can see as Randy and I just said, I think they're right around 6 million and change was your operating cost right there.
Page 6, now we go into the actual expenses. And so general government support is fairly stable, went up about $20,000. The water cost went up about $550,000. That was primarily on the water purification contractual side. I don't know if you can speak to that.
Where you at? Oh, wait, there, yeah.
1.1 to $1.5 million.
Chemical costs.
Yeah,
Chemical costs went outrageous.
your chemical gone up to $500,000. They were about 150, 200. So that's all chemicals. I see Dottie shaking her head. She helps pay the bills. This is, we saw this, actually, you saw the first jump from 21 to 22. First jump we actually saw was in 2020, 21, and then we said, oh, please stop, we can't keep continuing, and it just kept climbing.
And right now, our chemical budget is 1.45 million. And it was around 500,000 before COVID.
Exactly.
So that's the big cost increase, is the employee benefits increase, but nothing significant. But in total, the costs were again $5.8 million.
And where here are the costs that go to the city for administration?
That is. I believe that is on page 6. General government support.
Yeah, general government support.
That's not 8%.
No.
4%.
It's 4%, it's the town's 4% contribution.
So the town's 4% is here, but the city's is not.
So the city, it's assumed that the city, I guess the way we've been doing this for eons is that it's assumed that the city is,
City's covering that some of the way.
yeah, income, yeah. So we can certainly look at that, but like I said, if we put in another $250,000, then you'd write a check back to the city for 1.25 million instead of 1 million. Because our payment structure is out of whack as it is.
On page 10, this is the budget. As you can see, it's got,
The others are 6.3, 0.4.
so it's got 22, 23, and 24, the adopted budget. So it went from 5.2 to 6.1 to 6.3.
Yeah, so notice that it's over $1 million in 2 years, it's about 500 grand per year. And we can attribute the majority of that. Well, two things. One, we started building a capital plan in 21. So we put that money aside. Randy no longer has $500,000-600,000 in his operating budget for capital equipment. We're paying for that now, showing that separately in the capital plan. Still comes out in terms of debt, but then that debt is paid by the city income. So it shows up in our individual budgets.
My question, I don't know if I'm sure or not. Basically, everything that we do on third parties is all built by CPI indexes, rates change, blah, blah, like that. How does that compare like these numbers? Like, well, our stuff's going up versus going on the index. I'm not much about this.
Oh, I gotta tell
So
you,
are we losing by holding into that line?
It's a great question.
Or are we
the short
getting
answer,
that, or are we,
short answer,
you know, like,
short answer is yes. Because
Yes,
we're
losing?
we're not watching the store. We are not keeping up with inflation.
So
Right.
trying to use that CPI index as a guideline. Isn't doing it at pace.
I think it depends, you know how many CPI indices there are?
Oh, I'm just trying to figure out what the baseline, if that's not accurate for the way, as much as we're doing or producing, or the wording is to be correct, then we should have another thing that we use that for our.
Yeah, there needs to be a rebalancing, more,
In the IMA group.
we need more
Beats
capacity, we need more capacity to analyze, whether or not these contracts are performing as intended.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's the simple answer, but, Randy's story about, we took $500,000 or so, around 500,000-600,000 per year out of his operating budget and said, let's call it capital. We have a separate capital equipment budget, which ends up in our debt, city and town's debt, for borrowing from the EFC, or the state revolving fund. Go, well, why isn't there an extra, how did this growth of $1 million, 1.1 million between these 2 years? There's your chemicals. It should have grown by it should have only grown by $500,000. But because of the cost of chemicals came back. There's some other shocks in here too. Employee benefit and some other things to talk about. But that means that this budget grew out of $5 million. What's 10% of 5 million? That's a shocking increase year over year. But it's reflective of the inflationary environment that we've all been through. I want to say Randy's done a really good job maintaining his budget. He likes to pat it, but he's done a good job.
Come on, where you come up with that?
So, no, so this is something that, we need to be aware of. Our costs are increasing. And the funny thing about inflation is that, commodities like eggs can go up and down. If we're paying $7 a dozen, now we're paying $1.5 or $4.50. But, other things, like the cost of vehicles and other hard commodities, capital equipment being one, once they hit that level, and we just lived through about 25% worth of inflation in the last 3 years-ish. It doesn't mean they're gonna continue to climb 10%. It's the inflation battle that we're all in. Instead, they'll go back to some sort of normal climb, 3%, 1%, 3%, whatever that might be. Okay? So it's more palatable. It doesn't mean costs are generally gonna come down. Hoping that because chemicals are a commodity, we'll eventually see that. That's tied to, the wars that are going on right now. So we're not gonna see any reductions. Cost of things may appreciate slower. We're not gonna see things.
Is there a way to take all those extra costs? Because like Randy gave a number earlier, what did you say it is, a produced water?
$1.14.
$1.14 for 1,000 gallons.
So when you add all those other costs into that, it's not $1.14 to produce it. You have all the other expenses that feed into that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, I don't know if we can relate that and not put those numbers together.
No, Tom, you're spot on.
I don't know, it's just, I'm curious thinking about like, what's the actual cost to do it all? Like,
Yeah, what's the real
Well,
cost?
what
Exactly.
happens is that the city and town put the money in that we spent, and so if you take all the money we spent last year, and you take all the water we produced, it was $1.14, and that's what the city and town paid last year. How the money gets the split.
yeah, no, I know.
That goes back to when we charge third parties, which they really be paying.
But then you look at third parties, and if you look at the IBM on semi, they're paying 30% of our operating budget. We're only using $1.5 million, but we're putting out 11.5. So I would say that's not too
On
bad.
semi, it's 1.5 total revenue.
Yeah,
So they're at about 25% now. Okay. Please press on before we lose everybody.
Yeah, all right, page 12, this is the balance sheet for the capital project fund. The only significant change here is that the due from other governments and due to other governments both went down by about the same amount. Things were cleaned up and, I think the due from other governments, that's because I believe the bond funding or the money from the EFC came in and as
Yeah.
the water records that as due from until the funding from EFC comes back. All right, and then the total cost for 22 and 23 were about the same on page 15, 16. It was 2,042,000 for 22 and 2,030,000 for 23. Will be spent on the projects. So
Capital projects, yeah.
again, the revenues expenses offset. Page 18, this is a summary of all of the capital assets, the land, work in process, buildings, machinery and equipment. So construction in progress was at 12/31/23 was $3.8 million. So projects are coming to a close, I believe.
So as we close those projects, we're getting ready to open new projects. So I would expect to see, 3 or 4 million, something like that this year. Start putting the filters and all that.
Right, so the New York State also requires statement of indebtedness, bond repayment items, but since I'm under scheduled debt, there are no schedules for that. Page 24, there's the bank reconciliation. These are the accounts that Joint Waters money is sitting in. There's 3 different accounts. And just reconcile between the bank balance and what is on the cash accounts shown on the AFR.
This kind of gives you a sample of the actual cash on hand as of this date. It fluctuates between 6 million and 80 million. During the course of the year. Okay.
The CAF is fully collateralized. It's part of the city's collateral package. And the last page, this is a New York State schedule that nobody else requires, but they do. And this shows all of the employee benefits that joint water employees participate in. So you got state retirement systems, social security, workers' comp, life insurance, and basically the number of people that are receiving the benefits. All of them are full-time except for the medical insurance, which there are a few retirees that participate in. Total employee benefits for 2023 was about $800,000.
So it shows that our benefits about 14% roughly of our total.
The bank balance is running around 1.13.
At that particular moment.
About what we might be able to get by using NICLAP or whatever.
Yeah, I'm
That would
thinking
be a well amount that. Like we're over being probably not a whole.
it fluctuates between a half million and a million and a half. Depending on where we're at, so figure a million, maybe 30, 40, 50,000 actually. That's upon our cash flow and. County capital comes in. So, are there any other questions? I know there's a lot. But, hopefully, you're as excited about all this as we are.
Did you want the IMA group to get going? I
Yep.
wanted to have us get through the RFPs that we were doing. Kind of figure out where we are.
Yeah, we really need to.
Yep.
Really need to,
Well, and we had labor negotiations too, so
right.
both of those things were big. Those are squared together.
So, you know,
Negotiations were
I
huge.
hope we can, I know that we're coming upon the season, and people are on vacations and so forth. But I really hope we can push for at least a July kickoff. You know, and get those women together and figure out how we're going to skin this cat, because I think there's 6 to 12 months of work in this room. Because it takes a lot just to get read in to understand the business practices that we've been using. And then also then to understand, for example, the whole portfolio of third-party water sales. Different practices, portfolio of the living. And I think there's a really cool opportunity. Like that, cool opportunity. For the board, take this to the next level. As we consider how to maintain the plant with all the challenges we have, considering climate change, considering resiliency, considering IT, cybersecurity, all of these new challenges.
Flooding.
You know,
Flooding.
all of these new challenges. So then, of course, couple that with the age of our plant is starting to show its age. So,
Capacity. And capacity, yes.
Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate all your work. Jennifer is one of our unsung heroes. Just gonna help us get through, taking the city's operations to the next level. So thanks to.
Just to tell you that the 22 and 23 audits for joint water should go very smoothly because 22 has already essentially been audited as part of the city's audit. So all the work's already been done. Conadio just has to do their procedures.
So
It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Thanks a lot.
It's me you as well,
Thank
thanks.
you, Jennifer. Be in touch. Okay,
And we're also going to do capital plan, the union contract and.
yeah, wow. I think
Awful lot on.
we covered the capital plan.
Right, and the union contract, the only thing is to say is that we still need to get it approved by the city town board. Town board of city council.
The town board is ready to consider it.
Yeah, so I think, our lawyer and, HR are in the format. I expect to see that, approved by the, council hopefully shortly.
Do we have a final version
Uh,
that you vetted and wanted from you? I don't know if we made any changes or anything, but.
I haven't seen
The
it.
version that came
H-
from,
Our HR and folks council have, so I can follow them, see where they're at. I don't.
what do they have? Do they have the version that we were sent as well, the town was sent? I just want to make sure that we're all signing off on the same thing.
The city has the version from the union,
Okay,
just as you did, they got it booked the same day.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Refer
they're
back
looking
to,
back to their, what they've already put together to verify.
refer back to HR, Regina Pittman, who was also on the committee.
so there's two processes we can follow. Our council can begin reviewing what we received. Or we can wait for the city so that if you have any changes, we see those before we move forward. The next date that we would vote for would be June 26th. I'd like to move it along if we can. And look, ratify it, we can go either way. I mean, I think my take would be that I should go ahead and send what we both received to our HR and council so they can look it
No, you
over.
keep,
And then we just need, if anybody flags any differences, city and town need to just make sure that we're all on the same page so that we as a city are passing the same thing. If
Yeah.
there's any changes, we gotta be really clear.
would you just copy, Regina as the
Yep.
committee lead?
Yep.
And lead for the city? Because, then hopefully they'll get her coordinated with our corporation council and get it
Okay.
in front of our board,
I'll see Steve and you
please.
and Randy.
Yes, and Randy.
I'll do that.
Okay, item number 10 is done. Any old business? I think we've talked about lots of old business. Hearing none, any new business? And we talked about lots of new business. Okay, hearing none, then, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Thank you all for your time and attention.
I would.